It's recap time. I bring you one more recap. Today I'll explain a horror thriller movie called Double Blind from the year 2022, so let's start. The film opens with one of the 7 leads named Claire, who has just entered Blackwood Pharmaceuticals to volunteer for a new drug trial program. Claire checks into her room where she's met by her roommate Allison, whom she finds very talkative and annoying. Soon the 7 participants are called to the basement for their first intake of the new drug that no one knows of. 2 young lads, Paul and Ray, conspire that the facility has purposefully blocked their cellular signals to prevent them from making any communication outside of the facility. Simultaneously, a female doctor named Burke shows up and enlightens the participants with a small speech regarding what will happen next. As instructed by the facility, Burke tells the participants that they have signed up for a double-blind test, so they mustn't ask about or investigate the drug that they will be taking. Adding to that information, she says that she will continue to give them the drug for 5 consecutive days and will increase the dosage each day from 25 milligrams to 85 milligrams. Once Burke's done with her speech, everyone is handed the drug, which they take very carelessly. Everyone goes back to the main lounge to eat. Claire joins Paul and Ray, who have volunteered in drug trials many times before. At the table, there's another girl named Vanessa, who runs away when Claire tries to talk to her. Up next, Claire gets medically tested by a general physician and is happy to find out that she's shown no symptoms that should concern the facility. She comes back to her room, where Allison annoys her and provokes her to speak loudly, which makes her barf. She runs to the bathroom to vomit. When she comes out, she bumps into a young boy named Amir. Amir introduces himself as a medical student and an intern at Blackwood who's trying to get a job in this facility. Unfortunately for Amir, the facility requires his participation in this drug trial before starting the job, which is why he's here. Claire appreciates having a word with him and leaves. The following night, Claire has trouble sleeping, so she wakes up and finds Allison and Vanessa gone. She walks through the hallways and finds all 6 of the volunteers circled in the lounge, going through the same problem as Claire. They all end up believing that the drug is causing insomnia in them. The next day, Burke and her team come in to examine everyone. In a shocking revelation, Dr. Burke checks out the participants' brain scans, which she had performed twice on each participant, and finds inflammation in everyone's brains that's rapidly increasing. She calls the facility and describes the situation to a female voice over the phone, which grabs the research department's senior VP, George's, attention. On the other hand, Allison and Claire get along well and stroll around the confined basement. They come across a room with caged mice. Both see the caged mice from their perspective, revealing how they would want their lives to be. The next day, Burke gathers everyone for the second dose and tells everyone not to sleep. Keeping a big secret from everyone, she claims that they're testing out how this drug can help people stay awake, so they mustn't sleep. If anyone feels sleepy, they must report it to her immediately. In the next scene, Burke takes Claire for an MRI scan. She is claustrophobic and has some childhood traumas, due to which she starts screaming inside the scanner and is pulled out. Sent back to her room, she is entertained by Allison against her will. She forgets about the dark thoughts that the MRI scan session triggered in her. The scenes then cut to the last day, where they are handed the drug at a much higher dosage than they were told. They become concerned and decide not to take it, but Burke shows up, offering 30,000 euros to everyone for taking the higher dosage. While everyone else starts cheering and hooting to hear the prize, Claire and Amir become worried, knowing there's something wrong. Outside, everyone blindly dreams of what to do with an amount this huge. Claire joins them and acts as a bummer, like always. Allison offers her to be her roommate once they get out, but Claire laughs at her and asks if she has real friends and a life of her own outside the facility. Allison becomes hurt and ends up walking away. On the other hand, Amir eavesdrops on Dr. Burke while she's talking to George about not being held accountable for what he's getting the participants through. As she walks out of her office, Amir walks in and checks her computer, where he finds out about their brain condition. He starts copying the files onto a storage device to show others. Meanwhile, Claire realizes she was at fault, so she goes to apologize to Allison, who is sitting on a single chair facing towards the wall. When Claire approaches her, she finds her sleeping. She shakes her off to wake her up, but blood starts seeping out of every hole in Allison's mouth, and she is struck with a seizure. By the time everyone comes to help her, her mouth foams up, and she dies. Burke also witnesses the incident with her eyes and becomes traumatized. At the same time, someone triggers the alarms, and the basement goes automatically into lockdown. Burke runs towards the exit, hoping to make it out alive, but she gets in between the door and the wall. A fat metal rod attached to the door penetrates her abdomen. The boys pull her back inside, where she apologizes to them and dies on the spot, leaving the uneducated volunteers in a 24-hour lockdown. The boys try to break open the door, but Amir shows up and reveals that the door is password protected. Hence, there's no way to escape. Furthermore, he strictly warns everyone to not sleep or doze off because their brains have become so inflamed that they will shut down forever if they try to sleep, ultimately causing their deaths. Ray, the hothead, pins Amir against the wall and holds him accountable as if he's done this to them. Amir tries to explain to everyone what's happening, but he lacks the ability to translate her complicated biological terms into simpler words for a better understanding. When one of the boys suggests taking uppers or caffeine to stay awake and sharp, Amir strictly tells them not to. Shut for 24 hours, everyone tries different things to stay awake. Paul and Ray start making update videos while Vanessa walks around awkwardly. Meanwhile, Amir takes Claire to Burke's office where he's kept Allison and Burke's corpses. He takes readings of Claire's brain. The results come out bad, so Amir shuts the computer and changes the subject to keep Claire away from the truth. Claire walks out in the hallway where she mildly hallucinates and hears her mother singing her a lullaby. She records on her phone an apology video for her hospitalized mother, in case she dies here. She changes her mind and deletes the video right away. Meanwhile, Ray becomes impatient and fights everyone for their smelling salts, which Amir provided to everyone in order to stay awake. Amir himself hallucinates and sees Burke waking up from the dead. Claire snoops into Burke's office later and finds out from her file that the facility had secretly evaluated her as a self-destructive person who is the perfect candidate for any kind of hard drug trial. When she goes out to tell others about this, she finds Vanessa attempting to burn her hand on the stove in order to stay awake, but she chickens out. On the other hand, one of the male volunteers goes to the bathroom and experiences delayed sounds of the faucet and the mirror tapping. He then follows a dark figure that leads him to the exit door that's wide open. He takes the exit and blends in with the darkness. In reality, the others find him bleeding to death on the bathroom floor and become highly concerned about what's going to happen next. Secretly suffering the most, Claire goes to the kitchen and burns her hand in order to stay awake. The burn gives her some sort of clarity that makes her yell at everyone to come up with some other solution to escape, rather than waiting 24 hours for the lockdown to end. She makes a rough map of the facility. She points at a wall and asks everyone to tear it down in order to get to the other part of the facility, but Amir disappoints them by claiming that such trial facilities build no escape rooms as they're facing threats all the time. He returns to Burke's office when no one believes him. Now, everyone takes turns on one axe and penetrates a giant hole in the middle of the wall, only to find another wall made out of the same material as the exit door. Here, Ray conspires that Amir is secretly working with the facility and is somehow a part of their secret mission because he happens to know everything about the place. Clary doesn't believe it, goes to Amir to ask for a new solution. There, Amir breaks into tears and reveals that he unintentionally triggered the lockdown when he tried to copy the files from Burke's computer. Claire gives him emotional support and helps him come up with an antidote, which can subside the effects of the drugs they've taken in the past 5 days. Amir believes that his solution will automatically cure the inflammation in their brains. When he sends Claire to tell everyone else of the solution, someone trips the main fuse and the power goes out. Claire and Paul turn on their lights, but the darkness makes Paul shut his eyes for a while. Claire also goes through the wildest hallucinations, in which Allison's ghost haunts her. Soon, she finds the main circuit and turns the power back on. Now, everyone circles Amir and gives him weird looks. Claire tries to take Amir's side, but they reveal that they've found an empty bottle of uppers that Amir had strictly forbidden them to take. Ray comes in at last and starts hitting Amir, assuming he's a traitor. While Amir keeps trying to justify himself by admitting that he emptied out the uppers for precautions, Paul and Ray tie him up and plan on using a knife to cut him every time he makes a false statement during their investigation. Here, Claire saves Amir by revealing he has come up with a cure which she will take before anyone else for a try. While Paul and Claire take instructions from the tied-up Amir and work on the antidote, Ray and Vanessa have a secret conversation outside, through which it is revealed that Ray purposefully tripped the main circuit and blacked out the lights in order to see if Amir died in his sleep or not. Proving his plan to be nonsensical, Vanessa shows Ray a fast-acting sedative and tells Ray to distract everyone so that she can give Amir the sedative and see if he dies in his sleep or not. They're doing this because they have assumed that Amir is with the facility and has not consumed the drugs. Back inside, Amir and Claire share their perspectives on life. Amir has lost all hope, whereas Claire wishes to see the sun and live once again. Now, Amir walks her through what's going to happen when she is given the shot of his invented solution. She will either get a stroke at first, which will make her normal, or she will die on the spot. Claire is willing to take the risk, so she asks Paul to inject the now-prepared solution right away. While Paul and Ray fill the syringe with Amir's invented antidote, Ray signals Vanessa to sedate Amir. As Vanessa walks towards Amir, she looks back and sees herself dying. Claire decides to give Vanessa the antidote shot, but her stroke movements cause the antidote to hit the ground and be destroyed. Meanwhile, a devil with giant horns comes to collect Vanessa's soul and take her into the world of darkness since she doesn't believe in God. While everyone is traumatized, tied up Amir experiences his first manic episode and starts laughing out loud. Claire finds it disrespectful, so she pulls a knife to Amir's throat, but Amir gaslights her into saving himself by reminding her that he's the only source of information she has left. Besides that, he reminds everyone that they were nothing but a testing rat for the facility, which means there's no escape for them. Claire puts the knife down and goes back to the lounge to have some privacy. There, she hears her mother singing her a lullaby to put her to sleep. Suddenly, she finds herself behind the dark door where her mother supposedly locked her in her childhood. Claire overcomes her hallucinations by pulling out her phone and recording a confession for her mother, whom she calls an alcoholic demon. Sadly, sleep takes over Claire's body. She loses her grip and the phone falls to the ground along with the last sachet of the smelling salts. There, Claire has an out-of-body experience just like Vanessa. She finds herself being lifted into the air, but somehow her desperate will to live pulls Claire's soul back on the ground, from where she picks up the smelling salt and sniffs it to get an instant boost. When she gets up from the ground, her hands touch the front wall of the lounge. She knocks on the wall and finds out it's hollow. When she looks at the wall from afar, she sees the outline of a door. She runs back to the lab to alert Paul and Amir. She tries to untie Amir, but Paul stops her. He takes the axe and breaks open the door with it. Paul and Claire come across a room with an autopsy set up. Back in the lab, the mentally compromised Amir is met with his alter ego, which has taken the form of Dr. Burke's corpse. His alter ego poisons his head and makes him think against Claire and others, who have left him here to rot, and empowers Amir by telling him he's the smartest of all of the other candidates. It further brings to Amir's attention a giant knife that's close to his legs. On the other hand, Ray sits by Vanessa's corpse and confesses his thankfulness for sticking by his side during this time. There, he finds Amir's confession note in her pockets that Amir had shown to Claire. The note reveals to him that Amir was the one who triggered the alarms and the lockdown. Infuriated, Ray goes back to the lab to take revenge on Amir. He finds Amir struggling to get a hold of the knife that's close to his foot. Ray picks up a sharp tool and threatens to poke out his eyeball. Back in the autopsy room, Claire finds the body disposal unit, from which she thinks she can escape. She sees a simmer of hope and can't wait to tell others about it. However, Paul stops her from telling Ray and Amir as they're more of a liability to them. When Claire hears Amir's loud screams, she can't help but run to save him. Before they reach the lab, Amir breaks his wrist free from the elastic band and goes berserk, while aggressively stabbing Ray with the knife. Horrified, Claire and Paul run away when Amir runs after them with a knife. Paul runs fast and secures himself in one of the rooms. He locks it from inside, due to which Claire gets stuck with Amir. When Amir attacks her, she goes flying into the MRI room, where the MRI scanner turns on and sucks in Amir's knife as it's made out of metal. On the other hand, Paul makes his last confession video, not knowing he's inside a piping hot inferno where the dead bodies are cremated. Soon the entire chamber catches fire, ultimately turning Paul into ashes. Back on Claire's side, she escapes from Amir and hides behind a cabinet. While Amir chases her, his sleep deprivation finally gets to him, and he falls to the floor. At the same time, the exit door opens as the lockdown is lifted. When he steps out of the basement, an extermination team sent by the facility shoots him in the head. Claire cleverly dodges them and ends up smearing Amir's blood all over her face and getting wrapped inside one of the body bags. The team declares the zone free of plague and throws all the bodies in a van that takes the bodies to the morgue. When the driver sees Claire standing up in the back, he becomes distracted and crashes the van. From there, Claire uses her full force to kick open the back door and get out. In the bright sun, she finally gives up and falls down. Luckily, she falls into a coma instead of dying. Meanwhile, in the news, the sinister Blackwood facility clears its name from all kinds of conspiracies by blaming Dr. Burke for secretly carrying the Hanus project behind their backs. The film ends with Claire coming out of a coma and opening her eyes. I hope you liked this movie recap. Please comment down on what you liked about this movie and what scene you liked, and don't forget to subscribe. See you in our next video.